Arrival at Galactic Academy. The sprawling campus of Galactic Academy stretched as far as the eye could see, shimmering under the twin suns of Arcadia VUI. For Jake Thompson, a human hailing from Earth, this was more than just another school. It was a gateway to the stars. His heart pounded with excitement, barely contained by his outward calm as he passed towering structures made from materials unknown to humans. The academy was a marvel of architecture, with buildings that seemed to float, connected by streams of light that allowed beings to travel between them. Jake felt like a kid in a candy store, surrounded by the technological wonders he had only dreamed of. Principal Zix9, the school's administrator, stood waiting at the entrance with a deep sense of apprehension. His gelatinous body quivered slightly as he shifted from one tentacle to the other. 3 eye stalks focused intently on the new student, their typical calm replaced by visible concern. "Mr. Thompson, welcome to Galactic Academy," Zix9 gurgled, his voice resonating with a watery undertone. "I must warn you, humans with your unique tendencies have a reputation for causing disruption in environments like this. Please try to blend in. Our institution houses the most diverse collection of sentient beings in the known universe. You'll need to be cautious." Jake, barely suppressing a grin, raised an eyebrow in mock seriousness. "Got it, sir. I'll do my best not to accidentally conquer the school or invent faster-than-light travel by the end of the day." Zix9's eye stalks drooped, an alien gesture Jake quickly interpreted as frustration. He couldn't tell if the human was joking, but he had a sinking feeling that life at the academy was about to become much more chaotic. As Jake entered the bustling corridors, filled with students from every corner of the galaxy, he felt a mixture of awe and determination. His first class was Interspecies Communication 1001, and the classroom was unlike anything he'd ever seen. The walls seemed to pulse with energy, shifting colors in sync with the thoughts and emotions of the students. As he stepped in, he was greeted by Professor Clarthar, a being that looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a disco ball. The creature's multifaceted eyes sparkled with curiosity as they fixated on the new human. "Ah, the human student," Professor Clarthar clicked in a series of rhythmic noises that Jake's translator chip quickly decoded. "Welcome. Please introduce yourself to the class." Jake looked around, feeling dozens of eyes, or in some cases, sensory appendages, focused on him. He cleared his throat dramatically, channeling his inner showman. "Greetings, fellow sentients. I'm Jake Thompson, emissary of Earth, destroyer of pizzas, and occasional napper. I come in peace, unless you try to take my coffee, in which case, all bets are off." The class fell silent. A small, furry creature in the front row raised a tentacle. "Excuse me," it squeaked, "but what is coffee, and why would it provoke violence?" Jake gasped in mock horror. "You don't know about coffee. Oh, you poor caffeine-deprived souls. Coffee is only the nectar of the gods, the lifeblood of productivity, the—" "Thank you, Mr. Thompson," Professor Clarthar interrupted, antennae twitching nervously. "Perhaps we can discuss Earth beverages another time. Please take your seat." As Jake settled in, he couldn't help but chuckle. This was going to be fun. By lunchtime, rumors of the strange human had spread throughout the academy faster than a Zorgon flu virus. Jake found himself surrounded by curious aliens in the cafeteria, eager to learn more about this peculiar being from Earth. The cafeteria was an expansive hall, with food dispensers catering to every conceivable biological requirement. From gaseous sustenance to liquid nutrients, it was a smorgasbord of the bizarre. A squid-like creature with tentacles, swirling in excitement, was the first to speak. "Is it true that humans can regenerate lost limbs?" Jake snorted, nearly choking on his synthesized protein cube. "Nah, that's a myth. Though I did have an aunt who swore her hair grew back thicker every time she cut it. Does that count?" A robotic entity with glowing blue eyes tilted its head, processing Jake's response. "Our databanks indicate that humans are composed of approximately 60% water. How do you prevent yourself from slushing when you move. Jake took a deep breath, his face deadpan. Simple. We're actually walking water balloons with really good skin. The robot's eyes flickered rapidly as it attempted to process this new information. Meanwhile, a small green alien with large compound eyes raised a spindly arm. I heard humans have a bizarre mating ritual called dancing. Is this true? Jake grinned mischievously. Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'll give you a demonstration. What followed was the worst rendition of the Macarena the galaxy had ever seen. The cafeteria fell silent, all eyes and other sensory organs fixed on the gyrating human. Then, unexpectedly, a low rumble began to build. It started with a gelatinous student from Jake's earlier class, their body vibrating in what Jake realized was laughter. Soon, the entire cafeteria erupted in a cacophony of alien mirth, clicks, whistles, rumbles, and even some sounds Jake was pretty sure shouldn't be physically possible. As Jake sat down, pleased with himself, he noticed a group of tough-looking aliens glaring at him from across the room. They resembled bipedal rhinos, their thick skin and menacing horns giving them an intimidating presence. They didn't seem amused by his antics. Uh-oh, Jake muttered under his breath. I think I just pissed off the local bullies. The rest of the day passed in a blur of bizarre classes and increasingly outlandish rumors about Earth. Jake's advanced tentacle coordination class proved particularly challenging for the bipedal human, and by the time the final bell rang, actually more of a psychic pulse that made everyone's brains itch, he was both exhausted and exhilarated. As he left the school grounds, Jake's path was blocked by the same group of rhino-like aliens he'd noticed earlier. The largest one, towering over Jake, cracked its knuckles menacingly. Well, the creature rumbled, its voice like grinding stone. If it isn't the funny little human. Not so funny now, are you? Jake looked up, his mind racing. He didn't want to start a fight, but he also wasn't about to back down. I don't know, he quipped. I still think I'm pretty hilarious. But I'm open to constructive criticism if you'd like to workshop some of my material. The rhino alien's nostrils flared. You think you're so clever, don't you? Coming here, making a mockery of our customs, acting like you own the place. Jake raised his hands placatingly. Whoa there, big guy. I'm not trying to mock anyone. I'm just trying to fit in my own, admittedly weird human way. The alien growled, reaching for Jake with a massive hand. But before the rhino could grab him, Jake's instincts kicked in. Years of high school wrestling practice flashed through his mind. He ducked under the alien's grasp and, using its own momentum, flipped the creature over his shoulder. The rhino landed with a thunderous crash, its eyes wide with shock. The other aliens stood frozen, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Breathing heavily but grinning, Jake looked down at the fallen bully. Now, I know what you're thinking. Did I flip him because of skill or dumb human luck? To tell you the truth, I kind of lost track myself. But being as this is a human you're dealing with, the most unpredictable species in the galaxy, you've got to ask yourself one question. Do you feel lucky? Well, do ya, punk? For a moment, there was only stunned silence. Then, to Jake's surprise, the fallen rhino alien began to laugh, a deep, rumbling sound that seemed to shake the ground beneath them. You, the alien said, pointing at Jake with something like respect, are either the bravest or the most foolish creature I've ever met. Jake shrugged. Why not both? The rhino alien climbed to its feet, still chuckling. I am Grogar, and I must say, little human, you've impressed me. Perhaps we judged you too hastily. Happens all the time, Jake said, offering his hand. Grogar looked at the extended hand in confusion before tentatively shaking it with one massive finger. You humans are strange, but interesting. Perhaps we could learn from each other. And just like that, Jake Thompson, the dancing, joke-cracking human, found himself with an unlikely new group of friends. Part 2. The Legend of Jake Thompson. Jake's encounter with Grogar and his gang quickly became the stuff of legend at Galactic Academy. Word of the humans' strange yet effective method of self-defense spread like wildfire, and within days, Jake's reputation was solidified as someone not to be underestimated. In the weeks that followed, life at the academy settled into a new, albeit chaotic, normal. Jake continued to baffle and amuse his classmates in equal measure. In his phenobiology class, he convinced half the students that humans laid eggs, only to have to backtrack when the professor asked him to demonstrate. In galactic history, he claimed Earth's world wars were elaborate dance-offs. It was during an advanced physics class, in which Jake was struggling to grasp the principles of quantum teleportation, that the Academy's fragile peace was shattered. Without warning, alarms blared throughout the building. Red lights flashed and a voice, both everywhere and nowhere, announced in cold, clear tones. This is not a drill. Hostile entities have breached the school's defenses. All students report to designated safety zones immediately. Panic erupted. Students from dozens of species rushed toward the exits in a chaotic tide of tentacles, claws, and various appendages. Jake found himself swept along with the crowd, struggling to make sense of the situation. "What's going on?" he shouted to no one in particular. A nearby slug-like creature, leaving a slimy trail behind, turned its head as it slithered by. "It's the VAF," the creature burbled in terror. "Interstellar pirates. They raid schools and research facilities, stealing technology and kidnapping students to sell as slaves or conscript into their armies." Jake's mind raced. This was bad, really bad. But as he looked around at his terrified classmates, a reckless, very human idea began to form in his mind. He'd seen this before in movies, books, and TV shows. He knew exactly what to do. Climbing onto a nearby desk, Jake raised his voice above the din of panic. "Everyone, listen up." To his surprise, the chaotic mass of alien students paused. Dozens of eyes, sensory stalks, and other attention-gathering organs turned toward him. For a moment, Jake felt a surge of doubt. What could he possibly say to a group of terrified beings, many of whom had abilities far beyond his own? But then his confidence returned. He was human after all, and humans always found a way. "I know you're scared. Hell, I'm terrified too," Jake began, his voice clear and steady. "But we can't just run and hide. This is our school. Are we going to let some space pirates push us around?" A murmur spread through the crowd. Jake caught a glimpse of Grogar, who had been helping guide smaller students to safety, pausing to listen. "What do you suggest, Jake?" Grogar rumbled, his deep voice cutting through the uncertainty. "We're students, not warriors." Jake grinned. "No, we're not warriors, but we're the smartest, weirdest, most creative bunch of students in the galaxy. And I bet if we put our heads together, we can come up with something better than just running. These pirates won't know what hit them." Tara, the telepathic crystal being, stepped forward. "The human is right," she said, her thoughts resonating with clarity. "United, our diverse abilities could be a formidable defense." Jake nodded, feeling a spark of hope. "Exactly. Now, who's with me?" For a moment, there was hesitation. Then, with a bellow that shook the walls, Grogar let out a war cry. "For Galactic Academy." The cry was picked up by others. Clicks, whistles, psychic pulses, and 100 other alien vocalizations filled the room. Jake felt a surge of pride and adrenaline. "All right, folks," Jake shouted, his grin widening. "Let's show these pirates why you don't mess with the weirdest school in the galaxy." What followed was perhaps the strangest battle in the history of interstellar conflict. The VAF pirates, led by the notorious Captain Draffel, stormed the Academy expecting easy pickings, a quick raid for advanced technology and the brightest students to sell on the galactic black market. Instead, they were met with a united front of students, each wielding their unique abilities in ways no pirate could have anticipated. In the chemistry lab, a group of gaseous students led by Zik concocted a dense, disorienting fog that filled the hallways. The pirates stumbled through the cloud, coughing and cursing, only to find themselves stuck fast to the floor, immobilized by the adhesive secretions of the slug-like students. Meanwhile, in the gymnasium, Grogar and his fellow Rhino aliens set up an impromptu bowling alley, using rounded gelatinous students as living bowling balls. With each throw, the gelatinous students knocked down pirates like pins, sending them scattering in confusion. Tara and her telepathic classmates formed a psychic barrier, bombarding the pirates with confusing images and false sensory input. More than one Varth was seen swatting at non-existent space bees or trying to swim through what they perceived as water. And Jake was everywhere. He rallied his fellow students, coming up with increasingly absurd plans, all while maintaining a level of humor that left the pirates bewildered. At one point, he hacked into the school's communications system, broadcasting Earth's most annoying pop songs across the building. Captain Drathol, furious and confused, stormed into the control room. "What kind of psychological warfare is this?" he roared as Baby Shark played for the 15th time. Jake's voice came over the intercom, barely containing his laughter. "Oh, you haven't seen anything yet, Captain Hook. This is just the warm-up playlist." As the battle raged on, something remarkable happened. The students of Galactic Academy, so often divided by their differences, found themselves working together in perfect harmony. Species that had once eyed each other warily now fought side by side, their unique abilities complementing each other in ways no one had ever imagined. Even Principal Zix9 got in on the action. The usually prudent administrator was seen using his gelatinous body to engulf and immobilize a group of pirates, all while muttering about the paperwork this would entail. After what seemed like hours, but was probably closer to 45 minutes, the tide of battle turned decisively in favor of the students. The remaining Varth pirates, battered, bewildered, and covered in various alien substances they couldn't identify, retreated to their ships. As the sounds of battle faded, replaced by the cheers of victorious students, Captain Drathol found himself face to face with Jake Thompson. "You," the pirate captain sputtered, his fearsome appearance undermined by the glittery residue of a crystalline student's defense mechanism. What are you?" "A galactic victory." Jake, leaning casually against the wall, despite his own disheveled appearance, smirked at Captain Drathol. "Oh, just your average, ordinary human." Draffel's eyes widened in shock. Human, but the legends, the warnings. Jake chuckled, waving a hand dismissively. Yeah, I know. Humans are unpredictable, dangerous, the cockroaches of the galaxy. Heard it all before, but do you know what we really are?" He gestured around him to the diverse group of students who had gathered behind him, a motley crew of tentacles, claws, eye stalks, and more. "We're the ones who bring people together. We're the ones who look at a bunch of different species and see friends, not aliens. And we're the ones who will always stand up to bullies, even if those bullies come from space." Drathol, for the first time in his long and infamous career, felt something akin to respect, or maybe indigestion from the mysterious slime he'd accidentally swallowed earlier. Either way, he was impressed. "You fought well," Drathol admitted, his voice tinged with grudging admiration. "Perhaps the Varth have underestimated the beings of this sector." Jake grinned. "Tell you what, Captain, why don't you and your crew stick around for a bit? We could all use a lesson in intergalactic cooperation. Plus, I hear the cafeteria is serving mystery meat surprise today. Trust me, after trying that, stealing advanced tech will seem like a walk in the park." In a twist that would baffle bureaucrats and historians for decades, the once feared Varth pirates found themselves sitting in the Galactic Academy cafeteria, comparing battle scars with students and trying to figure out exactly what species the mystery meat came from. The chaos of battle faded into a strange but harmonious peace. In the days that followed, the Academy transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The failed Varth raid, now being called the Great Cafeteria Conflict, despite the fact that only a small portion of it took place in the actual cafeteria, became the catalyst for a wave of change across the school. New classes were introduced overnight. Applied xenobiology in combat situations quickly became a surprise hit, taught jointly by Jake and Grogar. Students from all over the galaxy enrolled, eager to learn how their diverse abilities could work together in crisis scenarios. Another class, Piracy and You, a galactic citizen's guide to interstellar law, was added to the curriculum, with guest lectures from reformed Vath pirates. Captain Draffel himself, much to everyone's surprise, discovered a passion for xenobotany. He could often be found in the Academy's arboretum, tending to rare plants from across the galaxy with surprising tenderness. When asked about his newfound hobby, he would grumble that if anyone called him soft, he'd keelhaul them across the rings of Sechen, but there was no mistaking the pride in his eyes as he watched his plants grow. The biggest transformation, however, was in the students themselves. The bonds forged during the battle brought species together in ways that had once seemed impossible. Study groups became a lively mix of beings, each offering unique perspectives. Cultural exchange programs blossomed, allowing students to share traditions, food, and ideas in a way that celebrated their differences instead of dividing them. Jake, of course, was at the center of it all. He organized interspecies sports tournaments, though the three-legged race took on a whole new meaning when some participants had 12 legs. He spearheaded cultural festivals, bringing together the culinary traditions of planets from across the galaxy, resulting in only a few cases of accidental food poisoning. And in true human fashion, he kept pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Through it all, his friendship with Grogar deepened. The two were often seen wrestling in the courtyard or engaging in heated debates over the merits of various intergalactic sports. Grogar, who had once been a fearsome bully, had softened considerably, though his competitive streak remained fierce. Even Principal Zix-9, who had initially feared Jake's arrival, had to admit that the human's presence had brought an energy and vitality to the school that hadn't been there before. Attendance was up, interspecies cooperation was at an all-time high, and the number of students accidentally dissolving each other with corrosive secretions had dropped to near zero. But despite the newfound peace, Jake knew that the galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and filled with challenges. His time at Galactic Academy had shown him that, no matter how different beings seemed on the surface, there was always common ground to be found. Sometimes that common ground was a love of learning, sometimes it was a shared meal, and sometimes it was standing shoulder to shoulder to fight off interstellar pirates. A new beginning. With the Galactic Academy's exchange program officially launched, excitement filled the air. Jake prepared to help his alien friends navigate the strange and unpredictable world of Earth. For many students, this was their first step beyond their home planets, and Earth, with its cultures, history, and chaotic human nature, was a mystery waiting to be uncovered. On the day of departure, Grogar, Tara, Zik, and several other alien students gathered with Jake at the Academy's transport hub. Each was buzzing with anticipation, eager to see what this new adventure would bring. Principal Zix-9 approached the group, his gelatinous form rippling as his eye stalks focused on Jake. "Mr. Thompson, I trust you'll ensure our students experience all Earth has to offer, within reason, of course." Jake smirked, offering a mock salute. "You've got it, Principal. I'll make sure they experience the best, and maybe some of the weirdest, of human life." As the transport doors opened, Jake turned to his friends, the excitement in his eyes mirrored by the various alien expressions around him. "Ready to see Earth?" he asked with a grin. Together, they stepped forward, not just into a new world, but into a new chapter of galactic understanding and unity. The adventure had only just begun.